magnificence, and that's one and only Sister ZaZaAli. And she's with us this wonderful and beautiful and amazing evening to give us some information and to inspire us with her firebrand of inspiration, motivation, if you will. But it's real and it's from the heart. And one of the things that I know that she is part and parcel of the scientific and spiritual dynamics that we need to not only receive here, but grow from. So my sister, it's again a pleasure and a privilege to be in your presence once again and have you tap in on the conscious mindset.
Thank you so much for having me. Peace to all the listeners out in Houston, of course. And I just want to thank you specifically. I've had a lot of people that have fallen off over the years, particularly people with platforms and, you know what I mean, avenues that could assist me in getting my voice and my work out. And you have, you have supported me the whole time and never faltered. I think we've done six interviews somewhere around now. And you always welcome me with love. You always give me my flowers every single time. And so I just want to make sure to let you know that in this time where everybody's kind of falling by the wayside, I really, really, really appreciate your support.
And thank you. And that's a great way to segue into this first question I wanted to ask you. First of all, why are people falling off? And more importantly, more specifically, why have you stayed the course? Because, it got trendy, it got hip, it got hot. Everybody wanted to be a part of it. Everybody wanted to talk about the knowledge and the information. And now it seems as if people are kind of being a little bit less buoyant and boisterous and expressing it the way that you still do, because you still lay it and make it plain, sister. So, why have you not changed?
Hey, listen, courage is not for sale. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't buy heart. You know what I mean? You can't go get a master's degree and, you know what I mean, and get an emphasis in heart. You know what I'm saying? So courage is a big part of it. Right now, talking about certain things and even certain words now, you know what I mean? And I know we're going to talk about censorship. Will not only get you picked up by an algorithm, but now you got to be thinking about jobs and bosses and, you know what I'm saying? Just speaking your truth on a social media platform now is dangerous. And I was telling a friend of mine about this. You go to my website and I constantly meet people and network and whatnot. You go to my website, one of the first things you're going to see on my website is my Science as a Weapon series. If you click that button, you're going to go to a page that's going to deconstruct everything that most people on this planet think is right and exact or true. So that's kind of like me putting a flag in the sand. There's no more, you know what I mean? Teeter-toeing or tiptoeing, I should say, around truth. We're drawing a line in the sand. And there was a moment on my social media platforms and even on my website when I had to say, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should be a little bit more strategic about this and not, publicly speak truth. And it lasted for all of probably 8 hours. And I took some of my stuff down off of Instagram because I was trying some things out and figuring it out if they were messing with my money and messing with the algorithm. And I took it down and I literally couldn't even go 8 hours. I felt like I was, you know what I mean? Like cheating my creator. You know what I'm saying? You blessed me with the ability to research. You blessed me with the ability to kind of translate all of this information and bring up a proper perspective in this hour. I feel like I am doing a disservice to the creator, so to speak, to not speak truth, to power, if you will, the pretend power, because we know there's another power on the scene that's about to show and prove in just a minute. All we got to do is stay on our square. But I also think that to the other answer to your question is that spiritual work is hard. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people were way more with me when I was talking about Black power and the white man and banging against the system. You know what I mean? And as I grew and evolved and started to move more towards a spiritually based space, of course, I had to put everything on pause and look within myself, right? Because that's where it all starts and ends. But when you start talking about, how I say your frequency is based on how you think, how you feel, how you live, how you eat, and how you breathe, right? That doesn't have anything to do with the system. That doesn't have anything to do with, you know what I'm saying? The prison industrial complex and, maybe here and there, but for all intents and purposes, when you start talking about self-accountability, there's no one but you.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So God set us all down for a year, basically, give or take, right? How many of us actually didn't take that time serious to stop and pivot and say, okay, wait a minute, there's something going on here, right? So imagine that was just a year and a half ago, but even before that, it's like, hey, warning.
Right.
We're headed for an iceberg. We're on the Titanic. I know y'all just want to hear music playing in the background, right? But there's something major going on. We need to pay attention. And a lot of people, you know, somebody came on my Instagram page the other day and said, you know, you say the only way out of this within. How are we supposed to? The only way out of this is within. How are we supposed to combat, you know, weather manipulation and all this other stuff we're going to talk about internally? How else are you going to combat it? You know what I'm saying? You got drones, you got, you know, the weaponry is only going to, physical weaponry is only going to go so far, right? I'm talking about getting into a space where before it ever comes to your door, you know what I mean? You come down on yourself. So I think, you know, that plus calcified pineal glands, you know, a lot of our conscious people still eat that Popeye's chicken. It ain't no secret. You know what I mean? Just running through these sisters, you know, that's supposed to be leaders and teachers and leaving a bunch of trail of tears, you know, and at the same time still being outed and respond and represented in the community. And even the women, you know, it's not I've been going hard on the brothers lately, but our women are, you know what I mean? We have not collectively, of course, done what needs to be done to step up to the moment that we're in now. So I think it's a collection of all of that.
You mentioned that we haven't stepped up, and there's some major things going on that we need to not only be aware of, but we need to address. As you've said, you know, we are in the age of information, but we need the wisdom of appropriate engagement so that we can execute and do what it is that we need to do. The reason why I bring that up is because I wanted to ask you, in terms of how we can collectivize men and women and really get focused on those major things that you have worked so tirelessly to educate us upon and make us aware of. How can we get to the mental state and the mental clarity to begin to tap into our pineal gland and to begin to understand how to effectively and efficiently tackle the problems and obstacles at which we're faced with and we must address?
Well, that's a great question. It's a loaded question, obviously, because everybody's going to have a different path, right? And that's one thing that, you know, we got to kind of be careful now, all of us from different religious persuasions, right? Trying to project or impose on anyone else the way, right? The Bible says, my father's house, there are many mansions. So there is not just one way. You know what I mean? For me, history, I'm an avid student of history. So me studying initially African history and then, you know, global history, you know, I went through a period where I was focused on European history. Then it was, you know, different cultures from around the world. That was the thing that kind of sparked my interest into, you know, where I am now. For some people, it'll be, you know, expressed and realized through the work that they do, right? You know, mathematicians or carpenters or whatnot. You feel alive when whatever it is that you're doing and focusing on. The first thing is that, you know, we have to find our niche, so to speak. I don't believe in, you know, sacrificing yourself for the greater good, so to speak. And that's twofold, right? Because obviously I'm here, you know, using my voice and using my platform to try to raise the consciousness, even, you know, when most people aren't paying attention, right? I'm still here, I'm still in the fire, right? But I think that we are all here to express God in our individual capacity, right? So for me, writing is one of the ways, speaking is one of the ways, researching is one of the ways. I have a passion for interior design. So that's, you know, kind of laid out in all different areas of my life. So the first thing I would say is gotta find your niche. You know what I mean? This is not the hour, even as we're in this space of urgency and like warning. Yeah. But at the same time, you know, I don't want people who don't have green thumbs going and buying farms or sacrificing everything. If you don't have a love for agriculture and nature, that's not really your lane. You know what I'm saying? If you are a wordsmith and you are a poet, you know what I mean? You can use those mediums. So that's my first answer. My second answer would be, we have to get in touch with breath work.
Mm.
The way that we breathe, and the majority of people on this planet are not breathing properly. So if you're not breathing properly, your body is not functioning at its highest capacity. Your brain is not functioning at its highest capacity. So, the irony now where, what I mean, there's a war on breath. Let's be clear. The war on breath is the war on God. Don't play with me.
Mm. Mm.
And anybody that has done any sort of martial arts, any sort of yoga, any sort of Reiki healing or Tai Chi or any of the respective art forms understand the power of breath, right? So if you are breathing properly, your bloodstream should be clean, your thought process should be clean. A lot of us don't even have clarity, and we don't even understand why we don't have clarity. So you pray into a God that's asking you to give it something specific, and you can't even give it something specific because you are not clear. You know what I mean? So the breath is extremely important. And then, of course, how we eat, that goes without saying to me. Sometimes I hear myself saying things that I was saying 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? And I die a little bit. I die a little bit every time I have to say something again that I said 10 years ago. It chips away at me. I'm not going to lie. So the way you're eating, I mean, at this point, if Popeyes and Kentucky Fried Chicken is still a part of your diet, I don't know. That's probably not going to be the interview for you. How you eat, and then how you think and feel. And obviously it's bigger than that, right? But how you're thinking and how you're feeling is what's actually creating your reality. And so when I talk about quantum reality and all these things, this web of energy, so to speak, I mean, I know we think that it's, boots on the ground, tough it out and, do what you got to do. And the way of this world, yes. But as spiritual beings having a human experience and now going through this purge, this fire, if you will, we've got to elevate beyond that way of thinking and understand that how we are thinking and how we're feeling is what's actually creating our tomorrows. That's a short answer to a very in-depth question, sir.
Absolutely. And it's a right on point answer in terms of really understanding the importance of our thoughts as energy, and we as being energy, making sure that we're in the right energy or the most positive energy and productive energy. And the reason why I bring this up is to say something that you said. I'll bring it up, old stuff like you said. I know you hate it, but it's real, so I got to bring it up. Our feelings are signals. Whatever our emotional state of mind emits a signal.
Yeah.
Wellness and gratitude are signals. So to neglect and abuse, would be counterproductive, because we as vibrational beings, we're constantly communicating with the broader universe through the way we think, act, and most importantly, feel.
Yeah.
I think that these words not only are relevant and they resonate on such a deeper level. I think now with this purge going on, with all of this madness, I think that we really need someone to break this down, like I believe you can, and to help us remain focused so we can have a level of peace and enough mind to mind our peace, so that we can be aligned with what I like to call, you dear sister, a spiritual warrior.
Thank you. That's a great question. And, there is an old adage in our culture, get out your feelings. How many times have you heard that? Get out your feelings. But how do you get out of your feelings if you're an emotional being? You see what I'm saying? We don't, and trust me, I understand, I don't like to make decisions when I'm angry, right? I don't like to make moves if my spirit and my energy and my thought process is not right, right? So we have higher frequency emotions and then we have lower frequency emotions, right? So learning how to, first of all, have discernment, right? But never take emotions off the table, because emotions come from the heart chakra, the heart center, right? So like now and in the last couple of videos, I've been talking about the love frequency. If you're operating on the bang against the system, hate the white man frequency, this is going to be a difficult process for you, right? Not because there isn't that we shouldn't be focused on injustice, that we shouldn't highlight injustice, right? But anything that takes you out of the love frequency is going to cause a problem for you in these coming days, right? We need, imagine, us facing a situation where we need to be as mentally and spiritually and emotionally astute as possible, right?
Facts.
This is where we are. Let's be clear. We're not talking about 2022. We're talking about Sunday, August 8th, 2021. Right now, we need to be mentally, spiritually, and emotionally astute, right? Now, how many of us are actually there? How many of us even have the mainframe or the conscientious emphasis, right? Even the thought process, like, wait a minute, we're talking about emergency preparedness, and rightfully so, right? All the things you need to have if and when it goes down. But who's going to cover down on your mind and your heart when your family is turning against you? What, can I go to Home Depot and buy a kit to help me deal with the world ostracizing me, my heart being broken because people that know me, that should know better, or at least come to ask me what I think when I've been studying this for 10 years, and then I find out online that you making certain moves and you never even asked me, that it breaks my heart. You see what I'm saying? So I need for the people watching me to understand, every time you make those declarations about how you're moving with your health, you understand what I'm saying? And it might be something that could potentially cause harm to you. You are sending out, it's a ripple effect. I'm emotionally involved in your decisions. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
The ultimate agenda and the ultimate fallout from this, whatever it becomes, because let's be clear, we walking straight through Revelations right now. You understand what I'm saying? And Revelations is fire, right? Right. Hey, listen, it's so what I'm saying is, bring us back to the heart center, sir. You know what I mean? Love. I love nature. I love God. I love when we are in our righteous mindset, our people.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? I love history. So as long as I'm staying in that lane and staying in that frequency, life is going to be smooth. There's going to be ease. I'm not praying to survive. I'm praying for ease. You understand what I'm saying? When the Depression was going on in the 1930s, there were people that were still living and moving and grooving. And you know what I mean? When people were jumping off of buildings, there were people that were thriving through those times. You understand me? That's what I'm trying to be. The Abdullah principle, as me and my homegirl call it. So I think that we have to really, really highlight and emphasize the things that we love right now. I'm Team God, Team Ancestors, Team Universe, Team Elohim, Yahweh, whatever you feel most comfortable with, right? That's where my loyalty lies. And so my son, being a reflection of that, is automatically a part of that. My son, right? Appreciating what the Creator and the ancestors have put in my mind and my heart, right? I have an utmost amount of love and respect for that. So I don't have time to be hating the white man. I understand what's happening on the planet right now, and all of the different culminations of history and all of those different, civilizations that came up and dropped out and were great, and then we don't hear anything else about them. Well, yeah, all of that is leading up to this point in time right now. Are you going to be able to sustain yourself emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, right, in order to get through this? And I'm only not emphasizing the physical part because that's all we focus on. Our culture in particular, we focus on how we look and our back and the bag, right? So you know what I'm saying? I want to make it seem like I'm not emphasizing that enough. I'm just trying to come at this from a different angle because there's a lot of people hurting right now and scared right now, particularly women, right? So I'm trying to give a little bit of love, you know what I mean, to help people kind of see their way through this darkness that we're in.
We are in a darkness, and I do think that love is the light and elixir to help us find the way and the path back to where we really need to be. I think the thing that sticks out to me as I was listening to what you were talking about is you're on your Instagram, you're always putting up really great facts and really great figures and really wonderful comments. And I love the video. You got the sister, she's fully clothed, she's boxing and whatever, whatnot. I mean, it's just great. So I want everybody to follow her on Instagram that's not. But the thing that I saw, and this was a meme, and it had this little child with this enormous heart. And then as the child grew into adulthood, you see the heart gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So I thought that that represented the lack of love. And you mentioned our sisters. Right now, I see sisters angry and frustrated and definitely filled with anxiety as many of them get prepared to send their children back to these schools. And many of them are not mandating masks and all kinds of things attacking the breath, as you mentioned. So I think that's important to recognize that. Mm-hmm. But women are dealing with a lot of dynamics, mm-hmm. and they might even sometimes forget that their connection to nature is so succinct. And I just want to make sure the Wi-Fi code, the spiritual Wi-Fi code, is on point so that they can get the access granted to be able to do what they need to do to continue to plant, nourish, replenish, because they're the earth. You know what I'm saying? So if the earth is out of line, if it's filled with poisons, if it's toxified, then that's going to create other problems and other issues that we want our people not to be affected by. So I definitely like to hear some of your thoughts in terms of helping the sisters align, something that you've done for decades, and also being able to focus and help the brothers as well.
Well, yeah, you know, I in the book, The Kabbalion, it talks about mental gender, right? Mm-hmm. And that there are, you know, the masculine and feminine principles are alive in everything, right? So I think now, and I've been, you know, kind of focusing in on this as of late, it's important for us to get beyond gender as spiritual beings, but it's also as physical beings important for us to right the wrongs of history and to bring this back to the center, right? So I don't think any of us can deny that over the last 2,000 years specifically, that we have been inundated and ruled by a perverted sense of masculinity as well as patriarchy. Patriarchy is not really a word that's you know, that's special to me, so to speak. I think the word like feminism is kind of played out at this point because everybody says it. There's no real, you know what I mean, no real like way to formulate a plan against it. It's so, you know, it's so abstract, if you will. But I think that we can all agree that our world for the past 2,000 years specifically has been ruled by men, white men in particular, right? So this is obviously a perverted sense of masculinity, but it didn't start with white men, right? And so as with, somebody put a comment on my video and said that the people that are in power are pretending, are using the book of Revelations to make their moves. And I said, no, they're not playing they're not reading or operating by a script. They're fulfilling their role, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's two different things to say, well, I read the book and I like this character, so I became this character. That's a different thing than saying I was born to be this character. I never even read the script. It's just who I am. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just playing my part.
I'm just playing my position, right? So, you know, just in the metaphysics of the scripture, so to speak, when we talk about Judas, when we talk about Jesus, when we talk about all these different characters in the Bible, these all represent levels of consciousness that we either can evolve to or we can devolve to, right? You can be Judas or you can be Jesus, right? But so I think that going back to your analogy about the child with the big heart that eventually blows up and becomes a grown full man or woman without, you know, with a small heart, small sense of self, right? That's why I say the love frequency is the key to all of this. And I think that, you know, as scary as this moment is, or as, you know, the unknown, right? The worst case scenario, which I've already processed in my mind, and it's a daily meditation every day, trust me. You know, this purging process is going to bring us back into the love space, like living in that frequency, right? I remember I was reading a book that was referencing this heart heart mind, cohesion, so to speak, synchronicity, right?
Right.
And it was talking about how our ancestors, the master teachers, their goal was to live in a pre-orgasmic state of existence, not be pre-orgasmic in the moment.
Right,
Not feel turned up when you see a nice looking man or a good looking woman, right? Or you in a mood with your significant other, but to live in a pre-orgasmic space, right? I mean, if you just like, wait, you mean wake up like that? You mean go to sleep like that? You mean when I'm working, I'm highly elevated and highly, what I'm saying? The energy is flowing and my mind is open and my heart is open, right? So this process that we're in right now, moving into the age of Aquarius, this concept of enlightenment, this is what these conditions are going to require us to become. So the world is off track. You know what I mean? This isn't even questionable in my opinion at this point. In every regard, as far as the family is concerned, as far as, I mean, just think about it. You're born into a world that you have to pay to live. You pay when you're born. My hospital bill for my son was what, $24,000? Wait, I'm sorry. I'm doing the work of the creator and you're going to send me a bill for 21. I'm being facetious because my insurance covered a lot of it, but I'm just saying, like, how did my son come into the world and this became I got a bill now.
Right, a debt. Wow.
I'm doing what I'm, so just like the situation in Dallas, recently we had these storms and these people are struggling to stay warm, let alone eat, and you know what I'm saying? And then you send them a bill for $3,000. I'm sorry, what? And this is legal and nobody can say anything or do anything about it. You know what I'm saying? So just like, I'm stepping back and looking at it all. Wait a minute. So if I own my home and I pay for my home cash, if you decide that you want to build a highway on my street, you're telling me that you have a law and a clause called eminent domain, where it doesn't matter how much I've paid and how long I've had it, you can come and take my house from me. Excuse me. Now you're telling me that you're going to connect me to the cloud against my own personal judgment. And I'm sorry, what? So this idea that we have about freedom, we have to completely, I've been meditating and thinking about a world where I don't have to deal with that shit. Deal with these things.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where I don't have to be, I worry about my son. I don't want to wake up worrying about my son. Why do I have to live like this? I gotta go in the store now and find things to prepare for somebody trying to kill me. I'm sorry. What did I do to deserve this? You understand what I'm saying? So for me, let me bring it back to the center. So for me, stepping back and looking at this world and the insanity and the mass poverty and the suffering. Everywhere I go, I see homelessness, and it's beautiful everywhere. Don't get me wrong. Nature is, but I see suffering and I see people losing their minds and mass killings and just all of this insanity. It's like, yeah, God is going to allow a lot of people and this world to be destroyed, right? Because we have to move into a paradigm shift. Otherwise, these people will completely destroy our planet. I hope I answered your question.
No, you went in real well, and I think it's important to elucidate this to the people, because you talked about our world being upside down and tipsy-turvy. I definitely want to send out loving energy and peace to the people in California with all of these wildfires and people in Oregon, as well as Washington. And we see, as you mentioned, other places such as Dallas and all across this country, we've seen a change in our climate. We've seen a change in our weather. And many of us aren't thinking about it, but we don't realize the dynamics. And I want to give you kudos. You always say I give you flowers. So I guess it's the first time tonight, because you were talking about chemtrails. And I'll admit it, the first time you said I was like, chemtrails. Okay, all right. I hear you. But let's get back to racism.
Yeah, most people were.
You know what I'm saying? But not understanding the full dynamics and how all of those things are intertwined and interlinked. Because even in the city that I live in, Houston, if you drive 15 minutes from whatever location you might very well be in at your beginning, your lifespan can shorten up to 15 years. And not based on the violence in terms of guns, not based on violence in terms of robbers and thieves, but in your breathing, the pollution in the air. So what you have been talking about for so many years, you've been right on point. And I love it when you say this is a great time to be alive, because I was like, I don't know what this is talking about, but she's right on point. Because if there's a time to be a superhero, if there's a time to step up, stand up like you've been doing and talking about these things. And that's why I'm so happy you're here to kind of talk about, for those that didn't know, that caught up a little late, that was not woke at that time, as they say. You were talking about chemtrails. You were talking about the environment. You were talking about climate. You were talking about pollution. You were talking about all of the contaminants and the pesticides. You were Monsanto and Monsanto long before it became popular. So I just want people to understand, you know, the work that you've been doing, so that they realize that this is not just a fly-by-night situation. This is something that is a part of your life's work that you talked about doing, by being able to do your purpose, do something you were destined to do.
100%.
So I really want you to elucidate that to the folks.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you for making that point. You know, I studied Steve Coakley. I studied Dr. Delbert Blair, Dr. Phil Valentine. I always had Bobby Hemmett propensity for metaphysics, right? That's one of the reasons why Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was so, I was so endeared to her, because she went into the metaphysics and the science of racism, white supremacy. So it wasn't just like, you know, you're abusing me, or you're, you know, mishandling us, or, you know, creating injustice. It's like, yeah, I see you, but here's why you're acting the way that you are acting. And as a queen, right, this is supposed to be our role as women. You know, I think we have this concept and idea about womanhood and what a woman's role is, right? So we're all cool with the, you know, with being dainty and ladylike, and you know, making sure that the house is squared away and all the domestic things, which rightfully so, right? I'm a woman, so I take pride in doing all of those things. But I also like to crack Adams. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, and I know this of my personality, when I was 12 and I was watching what crack cocaine did to my family, right? So people that I have, you know, a young girl watching that I loved, that were a part of my reality, all of a sudden we had to worry about them stealing things when they were coming in our household, right? We had to worry about watching out for our neighbors and kind of side-eyeing our neighbors, you know, people standing on the corner nodding like junkies, right? Oh, this is Oakland, California, when I'm a young girl watching a city that is predominantly Black, that has a lot of power, you know, internationally because of a major port, et cetera, et cetera. So I see this blossoming, burgeoning city go from, you know, that in its golden age to, you know, me worrying about people that I really love. Like now they're an enemy. You know what I'm saying? Now my brother-in-law could potentially break in our house and put his hands on my sister. You know what I'm saying? So this is real time, you know, on the job training, so to speak, right? So I'm sitting back and I'm watching all of this. And at the same time, I'm a writer and I'm very inquisitive and I love information and I love history. So I'm kind of putting it all in this pot, so to speak. Still trying to figure out, you know, what goes where. And then, you know, when I got, like, I think when I was 19, I left California and then I came back to California after a couple of years in Oklahoma City and Dallas. And I just started I was just paying attention. I just was looking in the sky and I was noticing patterns in the sky that I knew weren't, you know what I mean? This is not how this is supposed to be. I see a line 1 second, the next second, the sky's white, you know what I mean? So it was my natural curiosity, right? So this is why we've been talking about, you know, no aluminum toothpaste, right? Don't drink fluoridated water, right? All the stuff I talk about in my books, right? No, you know, be careful about the type of water you drink. Stop eating processed food. Genetically modified foods with no seeds is dangerous, right? So all these little things that the conscious people talk about at the family cookout, right? And everybody throwing back their brews and drinking their Hennessy, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, there she go again. right? You know what I'm talking about. Everybody who's listening to me knows what I'm talking about. Ain't nobody really trying to hear that, but they trying to hear it now. But the difficult thing is that this is not an overnight process. This is a way of life. You know what I'm saying? So you can't go online and order, you know what I'm saying, certain pills and herbs and whatnot that's going to sit you up straight in 24 hours. Not even 2 months. This is a way of life. You understand what I'm saying? I know you know. So stages of consciousness and awareness. God placed it in my mind and in my heart when I was 12. You understand what I'm saying? To be sitting back and looking at it like, wait a minute, how should you go from that to that? And not just that's the way it is. No, I don't think that's the way it is, because I'm trying to see the world from God's perspective. And God creates, God expands. You know what I'm saying? God is in everything and everywhere. And it's a strong love frequency that nourishes. You know what I mean? The planet and the flowers, and you stay in the sun, you're going to get nourished. You don't get no sun, vitamin D deficient. You know what I'm saying? So I think I had a God-given, inquisitive nature about myself. I was looking at things and I knew they weren't right. I also knew that Europeans had taken over the world and I couldn't figure out how, and I couldn't figure out why. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, they're 13-1. The population, we outnumber them 13-1. And I'm looking at the world right now, and all of the indigenous African cultures everywhere are suffering and struggling. Nah, bruh, we need to have a talk. You know what I'm saying? So for like 2 years, me and God had a talk where I was like, nah, bruh, I'm not with it. I don't understand what your agenda was with this, but this is not making sense. And fast forward to now, as I moved out of that space, of that important space of, kind of reacting and trying to figure it out, into, oh, okay, it makes sense now. You know what I mean? Like we had a wobble in our nature, so to speak, the original man and woman that had to be perfected. So, things happen and people came onto our planet to teach us a nice little lesson to help us to get it together. So, in the Bible, it talks about God said he would send fiery serpents, right? And I'm not, quoting it verbatim. This is a passage that Mr. Farrakhan always references. But I really think about that now, right? Because people will say, well, is it nature or is it man-made technology, right? Whatever it is, the creator is allowing it to happen. You know what I mean? And whatever it is, they're using the natural resources of the planet. So if they're using it to try to destroy it, then that's what we use to save it. You know what I mean? So, a combination of those things.
Man, people really need to think. They really need to think. And that's why, I want to applaud you from coming from Oakland. And Oaktown, as you mentioned, is a historical place of wonderful and profound thinkers.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I tell people all the time. The Black Panthers, if you study them, they were thinkers.
Yes, they were.
Dr. Huey Newton, right? And Bobby Seals was a thinker. And I think that you are following in that tradition. And I think it's important to say this, because that thought process that they had transformed and was beginning to change the community. You are a witness to that. You know better than I.
And an extension, right? Yeah.
And that had to be neutralized, right? So it wasn't just neutralized with the police. It was neutralized with the things that we eat, right? The particles that we breathe, the drugs that we use. And I think that it's important to say this and acknowledge this is that Oakland's demise is the same as Washington, D.C.
For sure.
It's the same as Detroit. It's the same systemically. And I think that we have to begin to analyze, as you have done and as you are doing, in ways in which to see that this is not just some happenstance, or it's not just some individualized process, but this is a part of a conglomerate.
Yeah.
Corporate, you know what I mean? And I think that it's important that we highlight in your work how you've talked about, not only that these things are prophesized, but there's been a lot of criticism and a lot of shunning and banning of sorts of different thought processes that would help us think and would help us deal with the realities in which we're facing, just like the Black Panthers and just like those of your ilk are doing in getting us to think and rethink and redefine the way that we live so that we can be more in tune with time and with nature. So I bring all of those things up to say that in this particular time, with all of these things being inundated with us. Do this, do that, get $100 and do this, get a ball game, go to the ball game and do this, do this because your favorite rapper said, backs it up. You got Juvenile and Manny Fresh, so it's so much inundation of do this. And I wonder, why are we not hearing, hey, this is the side effect of doing this, or this could be what happens courtesy of this, or maybe there's some other measures that we can use that are a little bit more rooted in nature, right?
Yeah. Well, so listen, you said a lot, right? And everything you said is right and exact. And just to double back on what you said about the the Panthers, there's an old legend in Oakland that they slipped Huey Newton some Jim Jones juice. And if you understand what Jim Jones juice is, it's an old legend that they did it to Mike Tyson too, right? You go in with your mental faculties in place, you go in strong, you know what I'm saying? You got the heart of a lion, right? And then all of a sudden you come out and all of a sudden you strung out on drugs, right? So we've known, I when I watch footage of Huey Newton, it's hard for me to capture him, the before and after, right? One time I was watching a documentary on the Panthers not long ago. And it was the first time that I had actually really focused on Huey after jail, right? And I was watching his demeanor. I was watching the way he talked. I was watching his avoidance of the camera. And I know my fair share of junkies, dope fiends, depending on where you're from, right? So I know all of I can see drug addiction all over someone, right? So now there's a shadow cast over his legacy. Oh, he ended up strung out on drugs and got killed in West Oakland, just died like a regular peasant, right? But let's be clear. He went to jail a certain type of way. He came out of jail a certain type of way. And the same thing happened to Mike Tyson. Some people would say the same thing happened to a lot of different people that, from our legacy, right? But so for me, that's kind of verifies what it is that we're talking about, right? When I wrote The Scientific Intervention in Our Affairs, crack was a big interest to me, because the common consensus is that some regular, brothers in the Bay Area was just sitting down and all of a sudden came up with this concoction of how to mix, cocaine and baking soda, right, and come out with this concoction. I started researching, and there was a gentleman named Michael Rappaport he was murdered. But he was one of the groundbreakers that really started to expose, no, crack cocaine is not a random event that took place. It was a very intentional scientific methodology that took place with scholars from some of the best universities here, flying out to South America to study this drug called bazooka paste, right? So it came from a tree, the bazooka tree. It's been a while since I refreshed on this, so if I'm, it's all in the book.
It's all in the book. They can get the book.
The bazooka paste was from this particular plant, and then they had, some gasoline and some other really toxic elements that they put together to create this drug that was destroying the culture in South America, the Peru area. So why did we have American doctors and scientists from Yale and Stanford going to study bazooka paste in South America, especially during the time when this country was in chaos? Why are we utilizing our resources for that? Then, fast forward 5 years, and now all of a sudden crack cocaine shows up in the Bahamas, Black, right? Or indigenous people. So now we got what we know as crack cocaine in the Bahamas. So it went from South America to the Bahamas, and then all of a sudden it shows up in the Bay Area, right? So, the strategy and the planning, that's what the scientist in me is sitting back and looking at, what I'm talking about with crack, but also the current situation. Like, bruh, oh, you really are serious about this life.
Yeah, they got that life.
You got doctors on tap. You got scientists on tap. You got politicians on tap, not just in America, but the whole entire world. So people that are now sitting back still talking about Biden and Trump, oh, you think Biden still runs the country? You wait a minute, you still think that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are still running the country? Oh, bless your soul. No, really, it's the innocence.
Yeah.
Ignorance, innocence. You take your picture, which word you want to choose, right?
Mm.
But bless your heart, and the same people in Israel and Africa and South America and Australia, everybody's reading the same script verbatim. You understand what I'm saying? So, and to your point, the pressure, right? So I just want to make sure that we're clear for everybody that's watching. If you've gotten to August the 8th, 2021 with your mental faculties intact, your mind is intact, you know what I'm saying? You haven't compromised yourself, right? You haven't
right. You haven't, yeah.
You haven't allowed yourself to be tricked for trinkets when God promised you everything and gave you everything, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Staying on the path. That's right.
Yeah, you on a path, right? That does not come with any perks, right? God doesn't need to give you perks because guess what? He gave you a planet. You know what I'm saying? The planet is 196,940,000 square miles. And you actually believe that somebody can tell you where you can go or how you can go there or when you can, like, stop playing with me. You know what I mean? I might have to sit down for a second, but I'm gonna sit down because I'm true to when I say sit down, I'm just talking about my movement, where I go, how I go. I'm willing to accept that sacrifice in order to make sure I'm still on the right team. You understand what I'm saying?
Right,
but the pressure, when I went back to Oakland, I left Atlanta, went to Oakland. There was, Lake Merritt, right, is a cultural hub. It's a mecca in Oakland, right? It's everywhere everybody goes. It's kind of black, white, everything is just a spot, right? There's banners all around the lake. I think it's like 6 miles long about wearing your masks, about getting, taking the like I've never seen this country collectively utilize its resources in the media and in marketing and in advertising. I have never seen this country come together and utilize the resources for anything that was righteous, ever. You see what I'm saying? Right. So the pressure, if you made it to this point with your mind and your heart and your self integrity intact, then I just have to stop and and bow. You know what I'm saying? And to honor you and to praise you and to give you the proper respect, because we are going to be the ones, once we get through this little bottleneck, that are going to build the kingdom of God. It's a great today.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really, really powerful, because that energy right there, we talked about energy a few minutes ago, that energy right there uplifts, that encourages, that gives us not only motivation, but it gives us the faith to know that our execution will actually come true. That's aligned with our purpose, right? And I think that that's important to say, because so much of what we see on fear mongering by the 85%, I'd love for you to break down. You talk about the 85 and the 5 and the 10 and things of that nature, and how important it is for people to be aware of why people are putting certain messages in front of us, why they want us to pay attention to certain things like this, so that we will be filled with fear, so that we will be immunely unprotected and immunely deficient in our thinking, and then maybe even in our very well body, maybe very well in our neurons and electrons and all of those different things, because that fear has now taken over us, and it begins to not only influence what we think, how we think, when we think, and what we think about. Yeah. And then if we don't critically analyze, then we get led like lepers over a cliff of destruction, because we are not listening to the right voices. We're listening to people who are lying to us. Yeah. We're listening to people who have a interest, a profit in selling us things and giving us things and exposing us to things that could change things forever in a negative way, potentially. Now, it may very well be positive, but you have to be honest. You just can't tell me, oh, do this. Oh, this is safe. No, you have to explain the realities and give us facts over fairy tale fiction, because many of us still believe in happily ever after. Yeah. But one of the reasons why they put that in is so that people would feel good to buy again and again and again and again and again. And I love your work because you go through it, Science as a Weapon and other things, explaining how we need to begin to critically think and use our right mind, as the old folk would say, use your right mind and do what is best for ourselves. Just as it says in boxing, and I'll close with this because I want to hear your thoughts, is it says protect yourself at all times. So if you're asking us to protect ourselves, then we also need to be able to ask you, does this provide real protection? And long term, can we be infecting ourselves or exposing ourselves to something that won't provide us protection for years to come, and will be something that comes and causes us to go closer to our demise, which none of us want, which none of us desire, which isn't what we know that nature would have for us.
I'm going to say something, and it's not going to feel good, but I have to say it. If you're right now in the space still questioning, does this provide real protection? You know what I'm saying? You behind the 8 ball. If you're still asking the question, if you're still engaged with the system right now, today, where you're weighing this with all of the BS that has taken place in the last year and a half, all the smoke and mirrors, all the lies, all the fork tongue conversation, right? Like I said, if you still think, you still worried about Donald Trump and you still, complaining about what Biden's and doing and not doing in the community, like, let's be clear, you're in 2000 and let's just throw a random number out too. You understand what I'm saying? And 2002 has absolutely no significance in what I'm saying. I'm just using it as a marking post. Right. If in 2021, you're just now saying, wait a minute, something about this, like, granted, I'd rather you be there than, you know what I'm saying, sitting in a chair taking a, you know what, right? But again, this is only a part of the war, the spiritual war. When everybody is beating down on you because of what you haven't done or because you won't oblige, right? When the job is on the line, when you have to consider your career versus staying home and homeschooling your children, right? When your mother is constantly at you and your friends are constantly at you and you see all your homegirls turning up and going to Greece because everybody got their you know what. You understand what I'm saying? And you're like, damn, it's a potential. I'll never be able to travel across the world. And you're having to face that. That's why most people are you know what I mean, are conforming, right? Because they're concerned about their quality of life. So it has nothing to do with the modus operandi or the, what we're saying it's about. Oh, I don't want to get sick. I want to be safe. Yeah, but you really just want to go turn up in, you know what I'm saying, the French Riviera.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And post it on Instagram. You see what I'm saying? So the idea that now with all this great marvelousness of the human body and everything, the power of your brain, the power of your mind, that you're actually sitting back like, this doesn't feel right, but man, I need this job. When you have a mind that can literally produce worlds, businesses, you know what I'm saying? That, like, the power of human ingenuity and our ability to endure and overcome is mind-blowing. That's the beautiful thing about social media. You see random little African brothers in Kenya creating solar panels out of, you know what I'm saying, needles and
glass.
You know what I'm saying? Like, wait, you did what? You're securing and setting up electricity for a whole city or a block, and with a bobby pin. You understand what I'm saying? Right. So now here we are. We've been given everything, and they promised you nothing. I'm gonna say that again. Let me get comfortable when I say it. We've been given everything, and they promised you nothing. You understand what I'm saying? So when we say this is a great and dreadful day and a spiritual war, consent is the name of the game at this point. So if you find yourself at this hour saying, does this provide real protection? That means you don't know your immune system, because that's the only real protection that there is for the physical body. If you understood your immune system, if you knew what antibodies were, when you get sick, when a virus or a flu tries to infiltrate your body, you got little soldiers that stand up in your body and say, well, right, wait a minute, look on the horizon, incoming. What's the, okay, what's the symptoms? We got cough, we got sneezing, we got vomiting. What's going on here? Okay, here's what I want you to do. You attack the vomiting. Here's what I want you to do. You attack the temperature. And then the minute that your body actually engages, right, this sickness, and then you heal from it, now your body and your immune system has taken a snapshot of this sickness. So next time it comes, we don't have to tell everybody where to go and what to do. We already ready. So if in this hour you haven't learned and understood that about yourself, right? And you're still saying, does this provide real protection, when there's every day so-and-so took it and died? So-and-so took it and got it again. So-and-so is in the hospital, right? If we're still asking that question, the science is overwhelming. The information is overwhelming. I don't really, I want to have compassion and empathy, and I do, but I need to really understand. I need to really underscore all the war that has been taking place all this time, and we were asleep at the switch. Do you understand what I'm saying? Chemtrails has been going on for 20 years plus. Is it possible that in 2021 you're just now hearing about this as a grown man or woman? Whose fault is that? Mine? Because you didn't hear me? Well, you heard me when I had beef with so-and-so and who, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everybody turned up for that. But when I was talking about weather manipulation and genetically modified foods and take this and do that, and here's how you get around this and get around that, we weren't tuning in because we're not seeking knowledge. We're seeking entertainment.
Entertainment. Yeah. We want to be entertained rather than enlightened. That's a powerful statement right there. And I think it's important. And just to elucidate what some of the brothers are saying, I'm on a natural high, the frequency on sleep. That's what the brother Timothy Harrison says. And Carver Washington says, this is battlefield, not a playground. Yeah. And I think that you have been a soldier on this battlefield for a long time. I want to ask you this question, because you mentioned about the low frequency and vibration that we're on. It's not just as individuals. We don't realize that the system designs that. They make sure that you see that Jim Jones is beefing with WAC 100. They make sure that you see that Sister ZaZa got into it with Professor Griff or whoever else. And then they make up stories about that. And that becomes not only what we do, but what we're led to do, what we're fed to do, and how we're educated. And so that's why conversations like this, we not only get scared of it because it's not what we're commonly hearing, but we become dulled to it to where it doesn't even seem like it's worth hearing. But that's the most important thing you could hear, which is to begin to breathe in your nature, walk in your nature, and be in your nature. And that's what you've talked about. So I want to get your thoughts on that as well.
Well, yeah, and thank you for saying that, because it took me back to a place that I wanted to go in the previous question that I completely forgot about, going on my little tangent. But this concept of fear versus love, right? I just want to make a statement real quick about something that you just said. The specific people that I've had issues with over the year are not important. You understand what I'm saying? This is like I don't want the conversation to get turned into that. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm operating at such a high frequency and vibration right now that anything that has happened in my past only serves me well today. That's spoken as a true queen. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't have no ill feelings. None of that stuff bothers me now. Like I'm operating with the full backing. You understand what I'm saying? And guidance of the creator, right? So I just want to, I don't want people to, how we are. You know what I'm saying? I don't want people to lose sight or track of the importance of what it is that we're saying. My intention was, they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? So a lot of us, because we don't seek knowledge. Knowledge doesn't seek us. We don't understand this thing called life, this thing called the universe, the way that we live is only going to give us more of what we are. You know what I'm saying? So you go into any bookstore today and you go in the fictional section and you know, there's billions of dollars of books being sold for, Ray, you know, and Bonquisha have a love story. Ray and Bonquisha travel to sub-Saharan Africa and, you know, take their drug money with them and then turn into kings and queens, right? I'm being facetious, but you understand what I'm saying. The fiction book industry in the Black community is thriving. You understand what I'm saying? I know women that will gobble a fiction, you know, Tales from the Hood love story in 24 hours, run through it, but won't pick up a book about what's really happening in the world to save their lives, right? So when you talked about, you know, they make sure that that's all people see, right? No, they ain't making sure of nothing. Your frequency is making sure of what information comes to you, what information you process, and what information actually resonates as truth. You understand what I'm saying? So I've had people attack me over the years because I criticize Beyonce. Like, in my world, Beyonce is like 0.0000000000000.
You went against B? You went against B?
Not against. Not against. I just stood for truth. You understand what I'm saying? Because Beyonce was the precipice for the Amber Roses of the world. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that Beyonce doesn't have talent or she can't sing or she isn't one of the greatest entertainers of our time. I absolutely believe she is. But she also sung a song about Bootylicious. You understand what I'm saying? So, you know, factoring those things, but let me get back up to my point. Love is a frequency and a vibration, right? And people that love Beyonce, right, can tap into that energy and can elevate, right? It all depends on how you're processing it. You know what I mean? I've actually spent money and went to a Beyonce concert before, so I don't want to make it seem like I'm anti.
No, we know, ain't no hate, ain't no hate. It's all
good. No haters over here, and I don't, you know. So, just factoring in the things that we focus our time and attention on. There's a sister. Remember the sister Simone? She's an African doctor. I forget her last name. It starts with an O. But she was one of the doctors that did the big press conference and talked about the H word, right? The magic. Talk about this in the Science of Self workbook. Fear has a slow wavelength. Love has a fast frequency. It's a fast, high operating frequency, right? We can apply that to everything. We can apply that scientific analysis to parenthood, right? And as a mother, I can tell you for sure, like, it is absolutely one of the most difficult jobs in the world, right? So am I approaching my relationship with my son now in 2021, where all hell, for all intents and purposes, is breaking loose, right? Am I approaching how I parent my son as he moves out into the world based on fear or based on love? And most of us as Black women in particular, from the last 50, let's say 60 plus years, have been parenting based out of fear, right? Especially with our sons. You see what I'm saying? So it's not just that. It's not just the on the ground operations of day-to-day life. Don't go down to that store because, you know, you might run into so-and-so. It might be some beef down there, or, you know, be careful about going across the tracks, you know, whatever it is, right? But on a larger collective consciousness, you got Black women in the South and Black women in the North and Black women in California and Black women in Africa, Black women in South America, right? All moving out of fear. The white man is constantly on our sons, right? And then the darker you are, the broader your lips, right? You're more, so it's more so. You gotta be careful. You know, you look like so-and-so, so you gotta be careful going out there. We are embedding fear into our sons. And should we be surprised that now here we are, when the war is on and popping, that we haven't created enough soldiers and warriors to be able to guide us through this? As women, you know, I've been talking specifically to our men, and this applies to them too. But let's be clear: as women, from your womb, what have we produced in the world by way of men? You know what I'm saying? So are we operating now? And this is something that I'm very careful about. If I and I have my moments when I found out that it was a potential that people that have taken it could potentially be affecting people like me and my son that will never take it. When I found out that there was a possibility for transmission, oh wait, hold on, slow your roll, ZaZa. I didn't see this coming. I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Like pivot, strategy, upgrade. What's the next move? I spent like two months, a month and a half, paranoid. You understand what I'm saying?
You were paranoid.
Oh, paranoid. And my paranoia, I could be paranoid and still listen to 6 hours of content that will really, you know what I'm saying, blow the average person's mind. So my paranoia is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know if your paranoia is up, then this is definitely something that's a concern.
Yeah, and the magnitude of my paranoia, yes, but the reality, the weight of the reality right now that's upon us is heavy. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm feeling like that, I'm not online putting out content. I don't even post if I feel that way. I'm just gonna step back for a minute because guess what? I understand the minute I hit send, the frequency of what I'm feeling in that moment, I don't care how powerful the words are, the frequency is going to be conveyed, especially for people that have been following me for some time, that have an energetic connection with me, people that have been with me for 10 years. That's like, yeah, ZaZa, I remember when you were saying this 10 years ago. Yeah, we have a different type of bond. So if I'm putting information out into the airwaves that's backed by fear-based consciousness, I'm doing a disservice. I don't care how much, you know what I mean? What the value of the information is. So love versus fear-based consciousness. 90% of this reality is built on fear-based consciousness. Think about how the people who have money operate in the world. Like they're supposed to have it, but you're not. Right? Not because they didn't work hard for it. Not because it didn't come from a process of struggle and strife, right? But like, yeah, I'm supposed to have it. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. That's why you're poor. That's why you're homeless. But from a divine perspective, from God's perspective, should anybody really be homeless? Should anybody really want for the basic necessities? Well, no, I'm not saying that. Oh, okay, so you have a lot, but you won't help with the reality on the ground, right? Not everybody, but you get what I'm saying. So the placebo effect. The placebo effect is a medical, and I hope I'm not all over the place. I'm trying to stay.
No, you right on point.
So the placebo effect is a medically and scientifically documented medical, anomaly, if you will, where you've had doctors all over the world that have had people that either had depression issues or mental issues or actual physical problems with their body. And a doctor either gave them a fake surgery or gave them a water pill opposed to a pill that will cure you. And because the person accepted that the pill or the fake surgery would cure them, they actually ended up healing themselves. There is a plethora of information, scientific information that cannot be argued that show people in Dr. Joe Dispenza's book, The Placebo Effect, he has case studies. One gentleman had a knee injury. He had a long-standing knee injury. So they pretended like they did a surgery on him, cut his leg open, put him to sleep, gave him anesthesia and everything. So this guy wakes up with stitches in his knee, thinking that he's had this major surgery. Nobody ever told him what happened. Fast forward, he starts their physical therapy and he ends up healing himself because he thought that he had actually had a surgery that would heal his body. That is nothing but the power of the mind. So it also operates the opposite way, right? The nocebo effect. So if you tell a person you got 3 months to live, right? Their body is going to start accepting that as truth. And then those antibodies and all that other stuff that I talked about that's happening in your body and in your immune system and say, hey, we got a new order. We got to stand down. We got a new order. You know what I'm saying? We're getting ready to get infiltrated by a foreign enemy, but stand down. We're not doing anything because we got new orders on the ground. That's how this works, right? So they've had plenty of scientific and medical, validation that nocebo works just as well as placebo, right? So have the world and the face masks, all they are is a reminder of the chaos. They're reminding you you're supposed to be scared. When you go to the park, go enjoy the beach, but don't forget, there's something lurking that's trying to hurt you. There's something lurking that's trying to kill you. So now everybody's walking around, tiptoeing around life, right? Scared to hug their family members, scared to embrace the people, scared to go out and live the world. People are actually outside wearing face masks. That is absolutely astounding to me. You're in the sun. It's 85 degrees outside. There's nobody within a 10-foot range of you. Why are you wearing a mask? Are you afraid of the sun? Are you afraid of the air? Are you afraid of the bees and the birds that are flying? Right? Because if you understood how important your breath was, you would understand how offensive that behavior is when it comes to the creator. And that's not to say, we all got to do what we got to do to, you know what I'm saying? So if you got to go and Target, your baby need Pampers, don't, the art of war.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to Target turning up because they asking me to wear a face mask. I just won't go in Target if that's the case. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm saying all of that to say that 90% of this reality is made up of fear-based consciousness. Look at the credit reporting system. Oh my God, I can't miss one payment. If I miss one payment, my whole last 10 years is going down the drain, right? Look at the way that the transportation systems and the infrastructure of this world, the whole banking system. Everybody now is like, be careful. Take enough out, but put enough in. You might want to have some gold. You need some, you need some cryptocurrency. Don't do this, don't do that. But be careful of this, but make sure you don't do that. But stand back here, trade stocks, but don't do, you know what I'm saying? Like the whole Wall Street industry, the idea you're investing in something that doesn't actually exist and you get rich because you had more to invest versus the people. It's all madness. It's the whole corporate industry and entity has to be decimated in order for us to go back to a righteous way of living. It doesn't mean you can't be wealthy based on your workload. It just means that you don't need to make $100 million for a year to dribble a basketball when somebody like the African doctor, the sister, is being shunned and not properly, the teachers aren't being properly adequately paid. You understand what I'm saying? Absolutely. The people, street soldiers that are
priorities are out of order.
Yeah, taking care of women and mothers and children. You make $100 million, they make nothing. How's that possible? You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned. Well, you did, sister, you did, and I think everybody out there can type in that she did, and you got some information. But I think that this is so apropos what you just said, because we have to understand it, and this is just for those that don't know this, but it's true. Is that even if you believe in taking, the jab, as they call it, then the thing that I question is, why was governmental dollars used? Why were taxpayer funds used? And yet these pharmaceuticals, they have patent power over the drug. And they have so much power that the WTO and other health organizations, even COVAX, which is owned by Bill Gates and it's others, they have asked for vaccines that the United States has double-fold, triple-fold. And they could easily vaccinate the entire world if that's the case.
Yeah.
But yet they're charging these countries $40. $25 even to developed countries. So when you look at the profit being the main initiator and the profit being at the core root of all activity, and then you say to yourself, wow, this is supposed to be about humanity, but at the end of the line, at the end of the day, this is about the economy of certain.
Can I challenge you on that?
Please challenge.
If it was just about money, why don't they put a saline solution in the shot?
Enlighten, expand on that.
We the placebo effect is implemented through fake, a water pill, so to speak, right? You give a person a water pill, they think that they've taken some highly some powerful drug, right? That's what a water pill is, right? So
Right.
a saline solution is the shot equivalent of that, meaning there's nothing in it that's really gonna help you or harm you, right?
Right.
It's neutral.
It's like a
If
water.
it's just about profit, why not use a saline solution?
Definitely.
I'm gonna bring this around,
no, that's a great point, because if this was just about money, then there's a plethora of ways in which you can address that, right? But we also know, and I'm glad you did challenge this. We know that only 15% have been so-called, vax, whatever. And
15. You said 15.15.
Yeah, 1/5 of the entire world population, and especially of developing countries. Now, in developed countries, they say around 50% have been vaxxed.
Okay.
And I think, and this is not in opposition to what you're saying. I totally agree. I just want to make sure that we identify there's an economic component and profitability that is being obtained, and is being. There are other machinations definitely that are going down and transpiring. But we can see that the profit margin is something that's motivating these entities while they're putting on commercials saying that they care about the world and the population and all of the things going on in India and other countries that are being beset, like South Africa. So one of the reasons why we're bringing this up is just to say that you're totally right. There are some things darker and deeper. And as you said, this is revelations being fulfilled. Like Bob Marley said, we got to fulfill the book. But I also think that the bookkeepers are making moves, and they're accounting for a great windfall and profit for those rulers who are controlling these pharmaceutical entities to be able to create a customer into perpetuity. And I think that we need to be aware of that and also hold them accountable. So if you got these extra things, then be fair with it. But if you don't see any fairness in it, then you have to question it. That's my opinion.
So, okay. And you're right and exact in terms of the economic, advantage, right? And on a physical level, this is absolutely about money. It's absolutely about profit, right?
Teach.
We're also watching the decimation of the global economic system, right? So part of the agenda that we're walking through today is the plan is to completely crash this economic system, right? So if that is the plan and the agenda, which it is, which is why they're throwing money out left and right. Now they're talking about, basic income standards all across the country, right? Taking care of people without people having to take care of themselves, right? So this is the law. This is the alley-oop, right? For what eventually is going to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's one aspect of it. The plan is to crash the system. All of everything that's happened, including decimating businesses, right? Making people close their doors. All of these things are moving us towards that vantage point, right? So as we accept and process the fact that, yes, this all is about profit, we also have to accept and understand that we're shifting from a space of monetary economic systems, right? And into a new space. There's two realms: the cryptocurrency, digital currency aspect, right? Where even though it's been sold as, blockchain being the end all be all, your money is completely, safe, et cetera, et cetera. No, this was all a part of the agenda from the beginning. Doesn't mean your money's not going to be safe. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't invest. It doesn't mean I don't want you to become a millionaire using your money. Have at it. But let's be clear. You'll need electricity. You'll need internet to access your money. You understand what I'm saying? So the major plays that are being made right now, even when we talk about weather manipulation, and it's all you can invest in the in determining or predicting weather events. Now you can invest in that on the stock market, right? If you invest in oranges, the potential of your profit is going to be based on the weather, is it not? Right? You understand what I'm saying? So that's some of that is money, right? Most of that is control, right? Because now you're limiting the people that know, what's really happening on the ground, that can pre-plan for, okay, Florida is going to get hit with this during this summertime. So that means that the product of oranges is going to be at this pace, and Atlanta is going to be hit with this time. So that means that peaches are only going to be growing in certain areas. We're going to send this here. We're going to, you understand? Like, so when I do that, that means
it's a lot
come out of me that bringing it back to the center, right? My question for people: do you trust the government? Black people in particular, because you know we could run down 100 different things right now just off the top of our head why we should not trust our government. This concept of democracy, when we've never actually experienced democracy, this idea that these people that write words and language down on paper in order to benefit themselves are actually ever going to be true to their word, or true. There's nowhere in history where that proves democracy works. Nowhere. Not one landmass. No, you understand? And when I say it works, I mean the people are actually deciding the leadership. Then the leadership comes into play and actually serves the people, and and everything is being ruled with justice and equality. No, that doesn't exist. It never have. Particularly when it comes to, you know, Europeans. That's where we are in America, right? So the pharmaceutical company also has a transhumanist agenda. What does it have to do with the financial benefit and, you know what I'm saying, what's actually being put in your bloodstream? Where's the, you know what I'm saying? How do you make money if you hook me to the cloud? Oh, you're not really trying to make money. You're trying to control me. Trying to be able to peek in on my mind and my feelings and what's happening inside of my body, so you can send a signal that either makes me do something wild and crazy out of my character, or that is in alignment with your agenda, or both. This is what we're dealing with right now. When I wrote the scientific intervention in our affairs, and I talked about Morgellons disease, depending on who you ask about it, when 10 years ago, I started learning that something that they were spraying from the sky was actually infiltrating people's bodies. And not only was it infiltrating their bodies, but it was actually going into the skin in a way that these people could not get it out. And it was self-replicating. I mean, you start off with a little fine hair, a little metal hair sticking out of your body. Then it turns into a little rash that's like built up of all of these webs, but you can't get it out. You can't pull it out. You can't take tweezers. You can't cut the skin off and pull it all out. It's made its home in your body. But not only has it made its home in your body, now it's starting to self-replicate. Now it's starting to release crystal payloads that can be picked up under magnifying glasses, right? So we're talking about metals and elements from our planet that are now being used to infiltrate the human body to control the human body. So if this technology that they're putting up in the sky, they say that once this nanotechnology goes up in the sky, that now it is radio controlled, meaning somebody's sitting back with a remote control, right? Some little pencil neck white boy that ain't got no heart and no courage, that would never survive where we come from, understand me, right? Sitting back with a remote control, pushing buttons and determining where the storm moves. It's the same technology that actually penetrates the body that created Morgellons disease, that tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people around the world that have gone into doctors, and the doctors say, you're crazy. We don't know what the hell you're talking about. There's overwhelming evidence of this online. So this is not conjecture anymore. This is not conspiracy theory, right? So now fast forward, the technology that is infiltrating people's body, that's being given under the guise of, we're trying to protect you from what. This is the same methodology that this technology has, that once they put it into the body, that it actually starts to replicate in the body and in the bloodstream. And then it goes and settles into certain parts of the body. They say it has a 64% chance of settling in the uterus of a woman. You understand what I'm saying to you? And I'm not using the language of it. It starts with an S and a P, 2 words, right? So it matriculates in the uterus of the woman. Why? What is that about? Are you telling me that somebody could potentially be sitting back with a remote control and actually determining where the technology that's in your body now goes and how you react to it. See, this is when you start to study the Department of Defense and what they're actually doing. We say we give our Department of Defense what, $10 billion a year. I just threw that off it's probably more than that.
Way more than that.
So what are they doing with this money? So when we say it's an experimental, no, actually it's not. It's been very well researched. It has been very well laid out. So once it gets released into the public, they're already very conscious and aware of what it's actually going to do. You understand what I'm saying to you? Yeah. So we're in the twilight zone. We are in the twilight zone. And unfortunately now, ignorance will get you killed. And when I talk about getting you killed, I'm talking about in any capacity. You walk outside and you on the wrong frequency, you're going to run into a nut job. There's California highway shootings all the time. Now that I'm in LA, I get all these notifications. Random people are just firing off shots at people on the freeway. A baby gets shot because somebody just opened up fire on a car. What? You killed an actual child because you just opened up you know what I'm saying? Like the scope, not to mention you talk about the pineal gland, right? And the impact of fluoride from our toothpaste and from our water and the way that it's affecting our bodies and what do you think the calcified pineal gland is? That means, oh, I had this beautiful gland in my brain that connected me to God, that gave me intuition, that gave me clarity and insight from the spiritual realm. Now all of a sudden I don't have access anymore.
Wow. That's powerful. I want to ask this question because I think it's important to talk about. In your work, you've highlighted all of these things in terms of awakening us to the realities that are going on. For those that might not be familiar with this, might never have heard these things that you just mentioned, they have a fear and a sensation of, no, that's not what I saw on the alphabet channels. That's not what my teacher told me in 9th grade. Come on now, ZaZa. If I would have heard that, I would have heard that from, some official. And I really want to explicate this, as we have this conversation. It's been an amazing conversation. Times move so fast. But I really want succinctly for people to understand that are just now hearing this for the first time, that this isn't even the preface. This isn't even an introduction to what's going on. So I really want you to etch into the minds of those that are listening. Don't be afraid to get information, and to get information that hopefully will make you think outside the box.
And no, I thank you for doubling back down on that, because what happens is when I do interviews or I speak, I always, edit myself or analyze myself, and the things that I don't say stick out to me more than the things that I do say, right? It's a whole process that I go through when I put information out, right? So let's be clear before I say what I'm about to say. You got to have a semblance of heart to talk about this. You got to have heart to be sitting on the line listening to this right now. Like, let's be clear. You don't just randomly bump into this conversation. No, there has to be a certain internal drive and internal, yearning, right? I need, so sometimes we don't have all the answers, but it's like, this doesn't really make sense to me, right? And then, you'll get a jewel will drop, or a random book will be placed in your lap, or whatever. So but you got to be in a frequency and in a space, right, for the information to even come to you. So if you're listening to me right now, regardless of what state of consciousness you're on, please understand that there is something higher working in your life to bring truth to you. And it could just be your own internal, consciousness, right? That's ready for this, right? With that being said, the level of evil and wickedness that's taking place on this planet, it didn't start today. It didn't start yesterday. It didn't start last year. You understand what I'm saying? So if you are in a space right now where you are completely blindsided and you are completely freaked out, then I need you to understand that the plan and the target against you has been effective. It's been effective because you have lost your spiritual awareness and your spiritual discernment. This is not personal about brother Sedric. This is not personal about me. This is not personal about what's happening in the world. It's something for you to stop and look in the mirror and look at yourself very carefully and ask yourself how, in a time of extreme wickedness and deception, your spiritual awareness didn't kick in and warn you. You understand what I'm saying? We're beyond the past. We're beyond the space of leadership, Brother Sedric. I need to be clear about this. We can take in information from you, me, all the great people online, all of the leaders that came before us. But this is the hour of judgment right now, where everybody is responsible and accountable to themselves. You understand what I'm saying? So if you find yourself in 2021, the light just went off in your head and you're 21 and up. Yes, I said 21 and up, right? Because we're that whole, oh, I'm young, I'm done. No, that's not going to cut. That's not going to cut it anymore. And we need to really stop giving ourselves licenses to just be completely reckless in how we help ourselves and take care of ourselves, right? So if you're 21 and up, and my son's 18 now. He's accountable for what I'm saying, but he's my son.
Wow, he's 18 now? Wow.
Yeah, my son's 8. He just turned to 18 in June, right? But my son, everything that I'm saying applies to him. But I'm also his armor. So I'm not thrusting my son out in front of this. Everybody, oh, it's the young people. No, our young people are absolutely not prepared for what's happening right now. Stop saying that. You understand what I'm saying? We need to prepare ourselves to cover down on them. So no, you're not going to put my son in the front line of nothing. You hear what I'm telling you? I'm going to cover down on him. That doesn't mean he's not being raised to be a king. That doesn't mean that he's not a warrior, but he's 18. You understand what I'm saying? Our young people are not qualified. Most of our grown-ups are not qualified to stand up in front of what's happening right now and take the blows for the lack of discernment of humanity. So again, I'm going to go back to what I said. If in August 8th, of 2021, as a grown, living and breathing human being, if you did not see the wickedness, our daughters are being snatched off corners and put in prostitution in every city across this country, let alone the world. You didn't know? Wait a minute. I'm sorry. You didn't know? You didn't know that there was evil and wickedness on the planet? Preachers in Catholicism, we've known that they were molesting children all this time and nobody has done anything about it. You mean you didn't know? Right there in Atlanta, what's the brother's name that was molesting our sons?
Eddie Long.
And they still going back and supporting this savage. You don't tell me you didn't know. You pick and choose what you want to know. You pick and choose what you're interested in. You know what I'm saying? Like when I came to LA, let me bring it back to the center. When I came to LA, when I moved into, I'm right outside of LA, right? I started, and this is around the time when I'm super paranoid, right? So I started, when I moved in my place, right? Love my place, everything's going good. I started feeling itchy all over, right? And I'm only telling you this because I've realized what it is now. I never talk about issues when I'm in them. No, we talk about it when it's soft because we don't want to magnify the frequency of the problem.
Right. That's right.
So I'm itching and I'm like, wait a minute, was I around somebody who potentially had taken that? You know what? Now I'm on 10 paranoid, and my level of paranoid is 1,000 times different than the average person, right? So one day I'm talking to a friend of mine and she told me that she had moved to Colorado and she had the same thing. And she was like, it might be the water, ZaZa, right? So I bought some Benadryl. I don't take pills, right? But I bought the Benadryl because the Benadryl was going to answer the question for me. Is this some technology that's infiltrated my body that's now changing me internally, which is what I was thinking? Or is this just my body's I took the Benadryl, it went away immediately. So now I know that the water here, and of course now I know the air quality, right, is not healthy. And I'm here, I'm in the thick of it, I'm dealing with it. But I'm saying that to say my discernment, my awareness of my body, the fact that I know that there's oil refineries within 15 miles of here, like 6 of them. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not operating under normal. I'm not in the hills of, you know, the trees in Oregon where it's beautiful and the oxygen is fresh and clean. No, I am very aware that I'm in the belly of the beast. You understand what I'm saying? So play is mandatory for me. Detoxing is mandatory for me, especially when I'm in the belly of the beast. So if it is incumbent upon me to know, how is it not incumbent upon you? How could you not know that your water has poison in it? How could you not know that eating an orange that does not have seeds in it is not good for you? How could you not know internally, instinctively? Not because you read my book, but because you are still connected to. You understand what I'm saying, Brother Sedric?
Absolutely.
So while I have, as a mother and as a woman, I have deep compassion and deep empathy, please do not ever doubt that I feel deeply for the world, that I am concerned for people that are just walking into consciousness right now. But we cannot, like, we're all susceptible to the same laws. The laws of the universe don't change. They don't care. It's not personal. The law of attraction doesn't care that your heart was broken from the last man and now you running into the same type of man in a new man because your heart's still broken. No, you still feel that way. Here's more. It's not personal, right? So let me bring this back down to to don't be afraid, right? The beautiful thing is that you're tuned in right now. And one thing I know about the physical body, one thing I know about the planet is that if it is given the right instructions, and if it is given the right attention and the right cultivation, that it can overcome anything. I also know that we're in the valley of judgment. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, one decision in this day is that serious. So you can't just be going and making random, oh yeah, I talked to my doctor, he said it was fine. Okay, your doctor said it was fine, but have you been paying attention for the last year and a half? What did your intuition tell you? What do you think about them handing out shots for lap dances? What do you think about donuts? Right? What do you think about, like, as an intelligent person, you should feel insulted. Whether you take it or not, just like, okay, I'm with it, but don't do that. That's buffoonish. That's clown behavior. If it's really good for me, you don't have to do all of that. That's the intuition, right? Before we say, does this provide real protection? There's a few questions that have to be answered for me before we even get to the part of whether we decipher whether it's going to protect me or not. You just put on a whole clown show for the world. I have a problem with taking advice and taking information from clowns. You understand what I'm saying? So my question to the people that's watching and listening to me, how did you know how did you not know they're clowns? Bill Gates released 750 million genetically modified mosquitoes in Florida. You said nothing. You weren't concerned. You weren't interested. So when we talk about God sitting back and allowing all of this to happen, I gave you prophets. I gave you messengers. I gave you a land that can grow and nurture everything that you could possibly need. And what doesn't come from the land is already in you. And they gave you a king. He liked the devil because the devil gives him nothing. We're in a divine judgment right now. It's above me. Brother Sedric, did you listen to what I'm telling you? It's above me now. The patience that you need right now might not be available to you. The time that you need right now might not be available to you. Now we're in the valley of the shadow of judgment. The only thing that's going to get you through this is you. So here I am. You understand what I'm saying? Doing what we were born to do. You can take it or you can let it alone.
Wow, we ain't gonna let it alone. We got to get people to tap into this information. And again, this is not even the beginning. I can't even say this is an introduction. This is really just the preface. You got through the table of consciousness.
Can I just say something, please?
Yeah, please.
I don't know where we got so weak. Where did we get so weak?
What you mean? So let's break that down, because I got to get you.
Don't pick up no wooden nickels, right? I'm from Oakland, right? So I grew up in the shadow of, you know what I mean, slick talk, right? So the brothers used to always tell me, don't pick up no wooden nickels. What does that mean? I'm 16, 17, think I know everything, and I got homeboys in the hood. Don't be careful out here, ZaZa. Don't pick up no wooden nickels. What do you mean? He might sell you a dream. He might look good. He might have money. You know what I'm saying? But he could still be a wooden nickel, right? So we're all being sold wooden nickels now. All you got to do is just take it, and then you'll be able to move around, and you'll be able to travel again. But now you're saying I got to put the mask on again, and I've already, you know what I'm saying, taken something that could potentially be a risk to my life. So back to my point, we, especially with this social media thing, like everybody's tiptoeing around and trying to talk soft. And granted, I'm a woman with a child. Like, I understand the necessity of the love frequency and the soft, gentle touch and the, you know what I'm saying? All of that is important, but let's be clear. It don't get no realer than what it is that we're facing right now. There is some very, 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 very scary stuff going on. I cannot sugarcoat that at all. So you don't have no more days off, whether you got it or whether you didn't. You know what I mean? So this let's be careful. Let's tiptoe around. Like, yeah, we've been doing that for a long time, and now I still have people. I'll say something like, the power of your breath, and take care of your breath, and the microcosmic orbit, and your blood is being clean, and like the whole scientific breakdown of your body. And then somebody will come along and say, just wear the mask and stop complaining. I'm sorry, what? Did you hear anything I just said? Did you hear me say that we've had ancient cultures that have been exploring this and studying this for thousands of years? Like, we like to marvel the pyramids. How do we think our people built those pyramids? You think you chug back some Jack Daniels and then turn around on Monday and show up for work and build something that's so precisely, you know what I mean? Like the magnitude of what it took for us to produce those great cultures. And what are we producing now? We have a learning curve now? Are we gonna 10 years from now we'll see the fruits of our labor? When do we start seeing the fruits of our labor? Because like I said, they've got nuclear weapons pointed down at the world right now. Not tomorrow, now. You know what I'm saying? Just sit back and think. Brother Sedric, have you sat back? I'm looking at the statistics now. As of today, there have been 2.5 billion with a B fully, inoculated, if that's the right word, right? Two shots versus one. And then there have been, let's see, 2.327, at least one dose, and then 1.199 fully, right? So that's 30% of the population, and then 15% of the population, right? For those people that are not in that number, it's the hour of judgment. The decision is upon you right now to decide which team you're playing for. This is not just about, putting something in your body that could potentially, navigate a version of the flu, which is what it is that we're looking at. And I don't want to get too deep into that, but, for everybody else, if there's 8 billion people on this planet, the valley of the, decision of judgment is upon you. Right? So you can take this information in that I'm sharing, and you can go and do research. There is overwhelming evidence of everything that we're talking about right now, and the potential of what it could be, right? Worst case versus best case scenario. The best case scenario looks scary to me. You understand what I'm saying? So we're like right now, I need you, if you're listening to me, if this comes across your voice and you're still in the valley of judgment, I need you to sit up straight. This is not a decision to put off until tomorrow. You understand what I'm saying? Because in a minute, they're talking about knocking on people's doors. So if you decide that you are not with this program, then you need to start fortifying yourself, not tomorrow, but today, right now, to keep that type of energy from coming to you. Where we are in our consciousness and in our frequency today is what's going to create our tomorrow. So this is not just about making a decision about whether you're going to do that or whether you're not, because you still need to have on the armor of God to combat stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4 of this war. We're only in stage 2, and I'm calling it stage 2 because the weather manipulation process was stage 1. You understand what I'm saying? So yes, I have love, I have empathy, I have compassion. I could never do what I do without it, especially for my own people who have strung me up on a cross so many times and turned their backs on me so many times. But I understand why, you know what I mean? 85, 10, 5. It makes, I get it. But at the same time, we don't have any more time to waste. And if you've taken it, you need to be on your square as far as your diet, as far as researching the people that are actually researching this holistically, that are trying to come up with cures. You need to be doing fasting consistently. You need to be doing bentonite clay detoxes. You need to be 100% on your square every single day from here forward. You understand what I'm saying to you, Brother Sedric? Taking care of yourself and making yourself the priority. You don't have no more days off. That's said with love. But we got to be honest about the situation that we're facing right now. These are, a great and dreadful day. Great if you're in alignment with righteous frequency, righteous intention. You standing on the right side, but it's a dreadful day if you're not.
Well, I know you are standing on the right side.
I'm striving every day. It's new. Every day is a new, you know what I mean?
You're doing it. You know what I'm saying? And I know that, and I understand that fully, but I want you to just walk in your divineness, because you're the only one that can yell and fuss at us. And I say, yep, sister's right on point. Ain't nothing I can say. I'm just going, yes, ma'am.
I've gotten a lot of messages from men like that. I appreciate that.
And that's good. And I want you to let people know how they can find out more information about your great work, because we need to read it. We need to study it. We need to analyze it. We need to have debate about it. We need to have discussion about it. We need to elevate in our thinking about it. We need to begin, as you said, to sit up straight and stand up straight and walk straight, so that we can be on the straight and narrow, if you will. So I just want you to let people know how they can find out about your phenomenality and magnificence.
Well, thank you so much, sir. My website is ZaZaAli.com, obviously my name. I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. So you can find all those, areas to reach me. My email address is info@ZaZaAli.com. I want to make sure that I cultivate this the right way from the divine feminine energy, right? Because I'm in Kali mode, right? The sword mode, right? It's important for right now, right? And I also go to sleep in peace and in love, or at least I strive to, right? So just stop and be still for a minute, and let's really all kind of take account of this moment in time. You know what I mean? Like, it's never happened before. It's never going to happen again. The culmination of our reality, everything from, taking slaves from Africa and importing them around the world, to everything that has kind of brought us to this moment in time was important for us to get here, right? So when we talk about racism, white supremacy, which, let's be clear, this war that's being waged right now is an extension of racism, white supremacy. I wish that the white doctors and scientists that I listen to continuously to get the real data information, I wish they would say that, right? Because it would bring more context to what's really happening. The CDC has been in Africa for 30 years. They ain't in Europe like that. Now, obviously, they're not going to be in Europe like that because Europe got its own setup. But you know what I mean? We want the scientific intervention in our
affairs. Look up Koufax. Just look up Koufax. Like people say, look at the Carfax. Look at Koufax.
Yeah. So for me, when I wrote the scientific intervention in our affairs, I was talking about things that affect everybody. But I wrote that for my people. Hey, if you're melanated, they're coming for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was the intention of that book. So I think that right now, for me, when I see people around me like acting like robots that don't have their own mind, you know what I'm saying? That people that I respected, people, doctors, medical people, scientists, you know, celebrities, right? People that we give some sort of credence to, fame, whatever. And I'm slowly seeing everybody like check off, check off. Wow, you check off. Wow, you check off. Wow, you. Oh, wow. I'm talking about people that you would have thought would have maintained some semblance of integrity or knowledge to see what's happening beneath the veil, right? Because it takes a certain type of temperament to see beneath the veil. Most people are just looking at the curtain, right? So to have the mental fortitude to see beneath the veil, if that is you right now, whatever level you're at, and you're listening to me, like I said before, I want to make sure that I honor and value you, right? Because we're the ones, when we're alignment, that's when we're going to get that extra, you know, that extra backup, so to speak, that extra power pellet that comes with being aligned with the Lord of the worlds, with the consciousness and the energy that creates worlds, right? But you don't just have access to that. And we say, well, you waiting on God, God is waiting on you. You don't just have access to that. Children do. People that are, you know, that maintain some semblance of innocence have access to that. Some of the elders and, you know what I mean, have access to that. But we have to earn that. And I think we've forgotten that along the path. God has requirements. God has standards. You know, so when I say we've become weak, you know what I mean? Like, if you really look at the magnitude of this planet and the beauty of this planet, for you to get sold on a lie this easy, I never thought it would have been this easy, Brother Sedric. That's the thing that's been the most amazing to me. Like, the lie wasn't even good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I see the strategy. I see how CNN and Fox and all of them played their position, but to me, it wasn't even impressive. Like, bro, wow me. They didn't even pull out all the stops.
Well, they got to do a lot to wow you, sis. I mean, you know, you next level.
But God put me here for this moment in time.
Absolutely.
So, you know what I mean? Like, for me, there's a certain standard that we have to carry ourselves with, especially Black people. I don't feel like, oh, you know, because we were victims of racism, white supremacy, we get extra leeway. No, we are descendants of gods and goddesses and kings and queens. We have a bigger responsibility. You understand what I'm saying? Women have a bigger responsibility, and they be mad at me like, oh, you always talking about women and da-da-da-da. Yeah, because I know how powerful you are. I know the potential that you have. So if you want to sell me on twerking being from Africa, then sell me on the fact that you went and studied science and chemistry in college, because science and chemistry are from Africa too. Stop playing with me. You know what I'm saying? So I just, the standards are higher now. You've got to be mentally astute. You've got to be spiritually astute. You've got to be emotionally balanced. You've got to be able to run up a flight of stairs.
Facts. I want everybody to put in the comments, thank you to the sister. I want everybody to put in the comments, thank you to the sister. I want the sister to feel that love, because that's what you've always been about. And I have to say this to you because many people have promulgated the idea that Black women showing love is nagging and complaining and critiquing Black women on being able to express aspects of themselves, which is insane, and the microaggression and all of this other madness that we don't have time to get into. But I just want to give kudos to you for always expressing what needs to be expressed, regardless of the expense that you're going to have to pay. Because telling the truth is expensive. It requires a lot of sacrifice.
Very much so.
And you've made that sacrifice consistently and constantly. And I think that most people would say that have studied it, would say, wow, sister's always kept her integrity. So that is a beautiful thing. I want you to let people know how they can find out more information about you. You have to come back on the program. Only reason why I'm letting you go because I got this great brother and he's amazing and phenomenal. And we got to have you back on again very soon to break down some more information.
Yeah, no, it's all good. And I send you well wishes for the rest of the show to end with a bang, and whoever your guest is. ZaZaAli.com is my website. info@ZaZaAli.com is my email address. You can get my social media pages through all of those, those methods, and just resonate with love. You know what I mean? Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. We have to visit those aspects of ourselves and fine tune those aspects of ourselves every day. not New Year's Eve, not New Year's revelations, but like right now on the clock today, and just be thankful to be alive in this moment. I'm so grateful to watch it all go down. Like I can't tell you, and to be an active player on the field, not on the sidelines. Like I'm in it. You know what I'm saying? I'm team God, team creator, team ancestors, team love, team universe, team righteousness, team health, team well-being, team high frequency, team love vibration, all of that. That's what I represent. But the warrior in me and the warrior in you has to start sitting up straight and really, really paying attention so we can get ready for what's about to go down. And we will be victorious. There is no question in my mind. There may be a short avenue for persecution for the righteous, but it won't last long. And I see you on the other side of it. You know what I mean?
You know what?
I'll come back whenever you want me, Brother Sedric. You got me.